Yeah, I did it. I went where no one should go. I watched the first two episodes of Velma. I'm not a hero. I'm just doing what any man would do in my position to protect the people he cares about. You. What I've just done today, this brave stunt, is basically diving on a live grenade in order to shield you from the unbearable, insufferable cringe of this show. Don't be deceived by this propaganda that's floating all around Twitter, where they're wiggling their finger or twirling their shirts over their heads, celebrating that Velma had the biggest premiere day for an HBO Max original animated series. Don't be fooled here. Don't let the devil pull the wool over your eyes here. This is a little Jedi mind trick here. The reason this had the biggest premiere for an animated show on HBO Max is because it's the only animated show left on HBO Max. They canceled every other cartoon they've ever fucking had, pretty much. It's been a huge controversy over the last, 6 months. They don't have animated shows left. Thus, this is the only one, so of course it's going to be the biggest premiere. This accolade is completely meaningless. It's like me proudly proclaiming that I have the largest wiener in this house right now, because I'm the only fucking person in this house. Like, there's no competition. It doesn't hold any weight. Just because Velma had the biggest premiere for an animated show means absolutely nothing when there is no other animated shows on HBO Max that it competes with. So I don't think the show is popular for what it's worth, but I don't think I'm alone in being a hate watcher of it. I watched it knowing full well I probably wasn't going to like it. I was super open to being pleasantly surprised, but that didn't happen. In fact, the first two episodes are worse than I expected from watching the trailer. I was very generous and gave the smallest chance that perhaps the trailer only highlighted the show's stinkiest moments, but I was very, very wrong. The show is stinkier than 3 garbage trucks having sex in a sulfur factory. It is fucking terrible. And I'd like to go over some of it right now. So I've watched the first two episodes. I of course can't show any clips from it for obvious reasons. So I'm just gonna have to paint a picture of the things that I witnessed, the atrocities, the fucking torture. Obviously this is all my opinion, but I do think you can make an argument that it's factual because everyone seems to hate this show, even critics. So I think this is just one of those unifying moments where everyone comes together to hate something equally because the show is just that awful. Now, I will say, I do think a lot of this was actually written by ChatGPT. A lot of these jokes feel AI generated, and one thing that stayed consistent from episode 1 and episode 2 is they used the same joke formula at least 50 fucking times, and I'm not exaggerating. When they didn't know what kind of joke to make or how to inject humor into a situation when they were going over their quota for bad jokes to fucking ham fist in here, they'd always fall back on the tried and true getting meta with its comedy. So they'll say things like, oh, this is that part in rom-com shows where we're supposed to kiss, but this isn't a rom-com show, so we shouldn't kiss. But if it was rom-com, we'd totally kiss right now. Or in the very first episode, they pulled a full-blown big mouth here where they just have asses of these high school 15-year-olds or whatever just all over the place in the showers. And they're talking about don't you ever find it weird how in rom-com shows they really put a lot of gratuitous nudity and sexual references in their first episode, but then it kind of dwindles off and it's not indicative of the rest of the show? That's so weird, right? As their asses are all over the place, it's supposed to be really meta, haha, oh, they're in on the joke, haha, yeah, shows do that. It's so fucking tiresome and gets really, really grating. It's not just a bad joke, but it's a joke that's so bad and used so many times that it just begins to get frustrating to hear, which is kind of an irrational response to hearing a bad joke, and I get that. But after the 50th fucking time of me hearing them set up that same thing of oh, well, this is actually just like in that movie where I'm supposed to solve this mystery, but that movie had a weird ending, so I'm hoping that here that won't happen because, I mean, it's not a movie. It's just, I can't stand it. And they do it so often. Now, setting aside just that series of bad jokes, every joke in here isn't good. And it's not even close. I don't even think they tried to make good humor here. I don't really know what they tried to accomplish, but it's all over the place. So, first of all, they made Velma the most unlikable character in the show. She's a genuine douchebag, a huge asshole. She judges everyone, she's rude to everyone, she insults everyone, she's mean to literally everyone. Norville, who's supposed to be the equivalent of Shaggy in here, just confesses to Velma he has feelings for her, and she laughs in his face, calling him a fucking comedian loser because she'd never actually have any feelings for him. He's such an unlovable, unlikable loser. It's so humorous that he'd even pretend that he has a chance with her. So she just keeps laughing in his face about how it was such a side-splitting, gut-busting joke that he has feelings for her because she just looks at him like a brother and nothing else. So it's so laughable that he'd actually feel that way. It's hard to like her in any capacity. She is like the actual embodiment of just the worst character. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know if they're gonna like try and evolve her to be more likable as the show goes on. It kind of like hints that that's the direction they're going, but that's still a stupid direction to take it. You took the Scooby-Doo IP and borrowed the characters' names, and you didn't even bring Scooby with you, which I actually think is for the best now. After watching the first 2 episodes, I'm glad they took Scooby behind the barn and put him down because he did not deserve this. This is a fate worse than death. So I'm happy he's not here to be absolutely fucking ruined here. But they took the character names. They have Velma here, and they've made her fucking insufferable. Why? It's not a fun character arc to follow this person become less insufferable as she learns to stop being a judgmental piece of shit. But the crazy thing is, I wouldn't even care about the direction they took Velma if they just made her entertaining. Like, if she could just make me laugh. But she couldn't. I started sweating from how much I wasn't laughing. Like, my body knew this was supposed to be a comedy going into it, but there wasn't any ha-has. Everything out of Velma's mouth is just rude. And almost everything she says is about a person's skin color or, like, their occupation or what they're going through, like hardships, and shitting on them for it. She is just unlikable, like a character you can never root for in any capacity. It really feels like half the ideas they had for this show are just like the worst ideas you and your friends would have had 15 years ago, like, what if Velma was dealing drugs? Haha. And then it's in the show. Yeah, there's like a whole big arc of her dealing drugs poorly. And then at the end of the second episode, her and Daphne start making out, even though they've just been shitting on each other the entire show so far. But then they start making out. So that's pretty hype, I guess. The whole thing with this show is I really feel like all of it was so lazily thrown together. There's clearly not a whole lot of passion behind it, and it really feels like there's a deep-seated hatred of the Scooby-Doo IP in general here with what they're doing to this thing. It's just bad. But if you are a tiny dick joke enthusiast, man, do I have some good news for you. You're going to get a lot of bang out of your buck from this show, a lot of mileage from that, because there are so many jokes about Fred having a tiny penis, and every time it makes you just slap your knee with a big old smile on your face because it's so good. I'm also being a bit fast and loose with the definition of a joke here because they don't actually make jokes about Fred's small cock. They just say that he has a small cock often. There's not like a joke attached to it. They're just like, oh yeah, and then Fred has a small wiener. And that's it. Like, there's nothing more to it. It becomes like a plot point, like Fred has a small wiener, so he might have killed one of the girls because she might have seen his small penis. And that's the joke. After having watched the available episodes, I once again have to wonder, who is this for? I just can't imagine any audience that would sit down and actually have a hoot and a holler watching this show. It doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't make you laugh. It isn't enjoyable. Doesn't have a good story. Doesn't have good writing or characters. There's no characters that you could even possibly like in the show. It's all just so flat, boring, and if it's not just boring, it's just infuriating to watch because it just keeps repeating the same fucking shit over and over again throughout 2 episodes. Like, I don't understand how they thought that was a good idea. Even if you go into this a huge fan of that style of writing where it's like, well, this is the part in rom-coms where this happens. Oh, this reminds me of that rom-com where that happened. Even if you love that style of writing, they do it so much in here that by the end of it, I have to imagine you're going to hate it. It's just not good at all. So early moist meter is looking like a 10% here, but we'll see how the rest of the series goes. That's about it. See ya.